And let's see, which one should we try out? Slab big enough? Yes. We're gonna suspend it above the table. The idea being that we're gonna take this soft slab and drape it in here, okay? So we need that negative space under here so it has somewhere to drape into. I'll bring in, it's just, usually we have, it looks like they're being used right now. I'll bring in a handful of fire bricks. Instead of, it's fine using banding wheels like this, but the bricks you'd usually just be able to suspend the plywood on top of those. I'm gonna take this, put it right on top. And if you want, you could use a rib to push this in, but I just like using momentum and gravity. So I'm gonna take this extra clay off. Maybe I went a little too far on that. So the negative line is probably like right under there. I should have just left this. Okay, so it pillowed down a little bit, but I'll just use. So what you want to watch for is, see how like right in that middle area here, it's starting to crack. What can happen, especially with these tighter ones, it's like with the wider volumes, this one, like this one's pretty wide, they pillow down real easy. With these tighter ones like this one, it does take a little bit more convincing, and what gets problematic is that edge right here can cut the clay and it'll just fall right through. So you'll experience that, and that's just fine. It's again, you're just kind of learning the limits of like what the clay can do. And for this, we don't need a lot of volume because this is basically our footprint and our base. What we're going to do is build up from this, okay? So now what I need is, Lauren, will you hand me a board that would accommodate this? Yeah, perfect. Thank you. So I'll take this, flip it, and now we have our base. And what I'm going to do is just cut out, just because we can reuse this extra clay, cutting out about a 1/2 inch around it, and I'll explain why in a moment. And now we need to just let this set up. And we need to let it substantially set up, because this needs to get enough, this has to have enough strength or structure to hold itself or to build on when we flip it back over. So let's transition to some pieces that are already made. And like that idea of this being tricky, something that's tricky is you're gonna have to keep your eye on these. Because if it's too soft, we can't build on them. But if they're too stiff, they've gotten too dry, we can't build on them, because you can't add clay onto them, it'll just crack off, right? So this is one of the learning curves of this assignment, like being able to monitor your clay to the point, well, to a pretty like specific point. So I'm just going to take this banding wheel, put it up here so you can see it. This is foam. The foam lives up there, but I just this morning cut up a bunch more over there because you're going to need foam for this assignment. So this is the round template that you saw over there. The reason I left that 1/2 inch on the outside is, remember I think I mentioned with the tiles, these things dry from the outside in. So if I had just cut it all the way to the negative space line, this right here would be drier than this right here. But by having this on here right now, while I let this dry out, this stuff's dry, but this to here is probably pretty darn close to the same stiffness right now, which is important to prevent cracking. So I'm ready to transition to the next step of building on this. So I'm going to cut that extra clay off. And yes, it's probably too stiff now to work with, so this is, I'll recycle it. These banding wheels, that's what this thing's called. There's a few different types of them. You can see this is a low one, this is a high one. You saw the smaller ones I just had. They're all located underneath this table. If we need more, I have more of them in my office. So this is the bottom. I'm gonna flip this over. And now the idea is to build outwards, inwards, however, like this is where you come in, like however you want to translate this. Maybe you want to like go in a little bit, and as you go in, like this turns into a square rather than a circle, and like so you have a circle that transitions to a square. However you want to play this out. If you want to think about this more as like a vase, then excuse me, a basket, that's totally fine. But we're going to use this as a base to build on. I'm going to soften this bottom edge a little bit. You can use a rib for this, or another handy tool we have is what's called a Sureform. It's that little tool you'll see that's like a rasp or a cheese grater. It looks like a cheese grater.